bring in Mark Geragos. His firm represents Lyle and Eric Menendez. I am going way over my skis here. I know, Geragos, we're not even at a point right now where the trial result has been thrown out and then the state has ordered a third trial. But I could not help but think it while I watched all 9 of those episodes. And I wonder if you thought about what people like me and the good jurors in the jurisdiction where they might be, how they might be affected by this docuseries.
Well, I think about it more in terms of just how ridiculous the docuseries was. I know, Ashleigh, the way you think, or at least I think I know the way you think. And when you were saying got over your skis, I had actually, that expression had kind of run through my brain. But I'm more appalled by this idea that somehow the musings of Dominic Dunn became a voice that needed to be heard here, because that's almost absurd. I represented Gary Condit at one point in the Chandra Levy investigation more than 20 years ago. And Dominic Dunn had speculated about poor Chandra Levy being sold into white slavery and flown over the ocean and on her way to the Middle East. And his musings were, he had a horrible, horrible personal experience. And I think that informed some of the craziness that he devolved into later in life. And this is just, it's hard to believe 20 years later that anybody could have given voice to any of this nonsense, because it's demonstrably true.
Okay, well, let's look at the other side of the coin. And Ryan Murphy said it to Entertainment Tonight, and we ran the bite. About 60% of that, and I feel like I saw about 60% of the docudrama really did highlight the most horrendous abuse, more than I ever knew from having covered and watched that case. Could that not be a benefit if again, there is a jury pool from which to choose jurors in a third potential trial?
I mean, can you imagine that after 35 years, these guys who clearly have demonstrable abuse, who now have the letter which you just showed, who now have yet a unrelated third party who has also made claims about Jose. Can you imagine having to put the taxpayers and this family through that again? Remember, we've got a letter signed by 24 of the family members of Jose and Kitty, all asking that the men be resentenced at this point after having served 35 years. And I'll just paraphrase Leslie Abramson, who you have on the screen right there, the unbelievable defense attorney that they had. Paraphrase her: if his name was Erica, would you have trouble believing this? And the answer is no. And now, fast forward 35 years later, I think we've evolved to a point where we understand what's going on. That's part of the problem with the Ryan Murphy docudrama, if you will. It harkens back to so many of these stereotypes that have been debunked. And a lot of this kind of homophobic idea masquerading as some kind of psychodrama, I think has been thoroughly debunked, and that's what's aggravating.
I have to wrap, but I wanted to ask you about Leslie Abramson. Does she keep in touch with the boys? I literally only have 10 seconds. Does she keep in touch with you or the boys, the men?
No, and I miss Leslie Abramson. I miss her around the courthouse. I was thinking about her today in a case I had.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.